If you make $200,000 a year and you still feel like you're not getting ahead, you're not crazy. You're not bad with money, but you might be trapped because 200K sounds rich. It looks rich on paper. It impresses your family. It puts you in the top few percent of earners. And yet, you still check your bank account before making big purchases. You still feel pressure when the mortgage hits. You still hesitate before taking real risks. So, what's going on? How can someone earning $200,000 a year still feel financially tight? Today, we're breaking down the math, the psychology, and the capital allocation mistakes that turn high income into low wealth. This is the 200K income trap. Let's start with the illusion. When most people hear $200,000 salary, they picture wealth. Nice house, luxury car, private school, vacations without stress. And technically, they're not wrong. 200K puts you well above the median income. But here's the problem. Income creates appearance. Assets create freedom. And those are not the same thing. A 200K earner can look wealthy while being completely dependent on the next paycheck. Let's walk through what 200K actually looks like. Federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare. Depending on where you live, you're losing roughly 30 to 40% right off the top. Let's say you're conservative. After tax, you're at around $130,000 to $140,000. Now subtract retirement contributions, health insurance premiums, HSA contributions. You're probably sitting closer to $120K in usable cash flow. Now housing. If you earn 200K, you're not buying the median home. You're buying in a good area. Let's say your mortgage, property taxes, and insurance run you $4,000 to $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. Half of your after-tax income gone into one fixed cost. Add car payments, childcare or private school, groceries for a high-cost household, travel, subscriptions, dining, lifestyle. Suddenly, your 200K doesn't feel elite. It feels committed. And that's the first crack in the illusion. High income doesn't automatically create excess capital. It often just increases your fixed burn rate. And once your fixed burn rate rises, your flexibility drops. That's where the trap begins. Because wealth isn't measured by income. It's measured by how long you can survive without it. And most 200K earners are still completely dependent on that next direct deposit. So, the real question becomes, if 200K doesn't guarantee wealth, what actually does? Here's the calculation almost nobody making 200K actually runs.
How much of your income actually becomes ownership? Not savings, ownership. There's a difference. Saving money is defensive, owning assets is offensive. So let's calculate something more important than income. Let's calculate your capital allocation rate. Out of $200,000, after tax, let's say you keep $130,000. Out of that $130,000, how much is going toward assets that will produce future income? 401k, brokerage investments, rental property principal, business equity? Let's say you're disciplined. You invest $25,000 per year between retirement and brokerage. That sounds solid. But here's the uncomfortable part. $25,000 out of $130,000 is under 20%. That means over 80% of your usable income is going toward maintaining your lifestyle. Housing, transportation, consumption, services, status. You are consuming at 4 times the rate you are building. That's not wealth acceleration. That's stability maintenance. Now let's zoom out. At $25,000 invested annually, assuming solid long-term returns, you're on a 20-30-year path to real financial independence, which means even at 200K, you're still running a traditional timeline. High income, average trajectory. That's the trap, because income tricks you into thinking you're ahead, but capital allocation determines whether you actually are. If 2 people both invest $25K a year, one earning $80K and one earning $200K, their wealth trajectory is almost identical. One just has a nicer lifestyle along the way. Let that sink in. Income doesn't determine freedom. Ownership does. And most high earners never increase their ownership rate proportional to their income increase. They increase their lifestyle instead. That's the invisible math. And now we get to the engine that locks it in. Here's how the trap tightens. You get promoted. Your income jumps from $140K to $200K. What's the first thing that changes? The house, the car, the neighborhood, the school district, the vacation tier. No one upgrades their brokerage account first. They upgrade their visible life. And it feels justified. You worked for this. You earned this. This is what success looks like. But here's what actually happened. Your fixed burn rate just doubled. And fixed costs are dangerous. Because fixed costs remove optionality. A $5,000 monthly mortgage doesn't care about layoffs. A $1,200 car payment doesn't care about burnout. Private school tuition doesn't pause when the market dips. Your lifestyle now requires $15,000 to $20,000 per month just to exist. And here's the subtle shift. You're no longer building wealth. You're protecting lifestyle. That psychological shift is massive. When your income drops or feels uncertain, your first instinct isn't, how do I invest smarter? It's, how do I not lose this house? That's the golden handcuff effect. High salary, high burn, low flexibility. And here's the part most people don't admit. The higher your burn rate, the less risk you can take. You can't pivot careers easily. You can't start a business easily. You can't downshift easily. Because the lifestyle is heavy. And heavy lifestyles require heavy income. Which means you are now dependent. Not wealthy, dependent. And dependency is the opposite of freedom.
This is why so many $200,000 earners feel stuck. They are earning more than ever, but they have less room to move than they did at 90K. That's the engine of the trap. And we haven't even talked about the psychological layer yet. Now let's talk about the part no spreadsheet shows. Identity. When you cross 200K, something subtle happens. You don't just earn more, you upgrade who you think you are. You're no longer doing well, you're successful. And successful people don't drive entry-level cars. They don't live in average neighborhoods. They don't vacation modestly. Your peer group changes. Your comparison set shifts upward. And comparison is expensive. At 80K, you compare yourself to coworkers. At 200K, you compare yourself to executives. And executives spend differently. Here's the problem. Lifestyle inflation isn't always about comfort. It's about signaling. The car signals, the house signals, the school signals, the watch signals. You may tell yourself it's about safety or convenience, but often it's about belonging. And belonging at higher income levels is costly. This is why high earners rarely downgrade, because downgrading isn't just financial. It feels like status loss, even if your net worth increases. So you maintain the burn. You protect the image. You defend the narrative. And over time, something dangerous happens. Your expenses scale with your ego, but your ownership doesn't. You're not rich. You're expensive. There's a difference. Rich means assets produce income. Expensive means your life requires income. And if your lifestyle requires $18,000 a month to function, you don't own your life. Your income does. That's the psychological trap. Not greed, not stupidity. Identity expansion without ownership expansion. And until those two grow together, you'll always feel like you need just a little more. So let's redefine the game. Because if income isn't wealth, what is? Wealth is time. More specifically, wealth is how long you can sustain your lifestyle without active income. Let's make that practical. If your annual spending is $150,000 and you have $300,000 invested, you have 2 years of freedom. 2. That's not wealth. That's a buffer. Now imagine another scenario. You earn $200K, but your spending is capped at $90K. You invest aggressively. You build assets that produce cash flow. Now your assets cover 50% of your expenses. You've reduced your dependency. That's wealth formation. Here's a formula that matters more than income. Freedom ratio equals invested assets divided by annual burn rate.
If your burn rate is high, your required asset base explodes. If your burn rate is controlled, your required asset base shrinks dramatically.
This is why two people earning the same 200K can live completely different financial realities. One needs $5 million to feel safe. The other needs $2 million. One is trapped until 60. The other has optionality at 45. Same income, different allocation. The trap isn't the 200K. The trap is confusing income with independence. Income is rented. Assets are owned. And until your assets can support your burn, you are income dependent, not wealthy. Now the question becomes, how do you escape? Escaping the 200K income trap doesn't require earning 400K. It requires restructuring how you think about income. Step 1. Cap lifestyle before income scales. Most people let lifestyle expand automatically with promotions. Instead, decide in advance. My burn rate does not rise until my allocation rate rises. If your income jumps from 150K to 200K, and your investing stays flat, you're not progressing. You're upgrading comfort. Instead, flip the order. Increase your ownership rate first. Then, if there's excess after that, upgrade intentionally. Step 2. Focus on fixed costs, not coffee. Cutting subscriptions doesn't change your trajectory. Adjusting housing does. Adjusting car decisions does. Adjusting private education decisions does. Your wealth path is determined by your largest recurring commitments, not minor expenses. Step 3. Build optionality before luxury. Optionality means 12 to 24 months of runway, assets that produce income, investments outside retirement accounts, reduce dependency on a single employer. If your entire financial strategy is locked inside tax-advantaged accounts you can't access for 25 years, you may be retirement secure, but you're not flexible. And flexibility is leverage.
Step 4. Increase allocation percentage, not just contribution amount. This is critical. A $25,000 annual investment on $200,000 income sounds impressive, but if it's only 15% of your usable income, you're not accelerating. High earners should aim for ownership rates that reflect their advantage. Your income is a tool. If you don't convert it into assets aggressively during peak earning years, you're wasting your leverage window. Because income can disappear, but ownership compounds. And compounding is what creates asymmetry. That's how you escape, not by earning more, but by allocating better. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't want wealth. They want the appearance of wealth. And income gives you that appearance instantly. Assets do not. Assets are invisible at first. They don't impress your neighbors. They don't signal status. They don't show up in your driveway. But they buy you something far more valuable: control. The goal isn't $200,000. The goal isn't $500,000. The goal is being able to say no. No to work you hate. No to environments that drain you. No to financial fear. And that only happens when your assets start carrying weight. So if you make $200,000 and still feel stuck, don't assume you need a raise. Ask a better question. How much of my income am I converting into ownership? Because high income without ownership is just expensive living. And expensive living is fragile. You don't escape the trap by earning more. You escape it by reducing dependency. High income is a privilege, but high control is power. Choose power. I'm Cole. This was your audit.